Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business: the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready? Welcome back, listeners, to another amazing episode of the Entrepreneur Encounter. Today, we are going to be diving into a topic that I feel like everyone, no matter what phase of entrepreneurship you're in, but how to create a time map that aligns with your energy, whether it's during the morning to get more work things done or in the evening, and then how to accomplish having more of what you want to do in your calendar and not just your to-dos, which personally I'm guilty of the most. If anyone's looked at my calendar, is a rainbow of the many to-dos I have to do every single day. With us to talk through this topic is Heidi Mills. She's a productivity consultant. Welcome, Heidi.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Will you take just a few moments to kind of better introduce yourself and how you came to be in the niche of productivity consultant?
Yes. So I loved to organize as a kid. Then this woman who was kind of our lead in selling passes was very organized and thought I could get a degree in organizing. And I said, no, I see that I can do it as a career. And it was kind of the kick in the butt I needed to do my own thing when I was told our office where I was working at the time was going to shut down. And so I went from there. And one of the things I loved in the organizing industry was finding other organizers locally. And there's a national association. And I went to a meeting, and immediately, instead of everybody saying, oh, who's your competition? It was very collaborative. And a lot of organizers actually work together on big projects for the people that are doing big moves and getting to know each other. So it was really great.
I never even thought like you can get a degree in organization. Like, are you talking about organization as like in physical, like in houses and offices?
Yeah, I'm not sure where she came up with that. We all were in different locations at the time when we were selling ski passes, and she had to coordinate everything and have stuff in boxes because she was always moving stuff around. So I'm not sure where she saw that, but I told her years ago, I thought I'd try to find a niche to help people in sports and CEOs that needed to be organized, but then I've taken a very different path since then. Working with moms and entrepreneurs is my favorite. So
I think that's what's interesting is that it's organization, but it's a very big umbrella of what that means. Like, you can organize businesses, and even under that one, you can organize very different businesses or homes, or like leading into the productivity of organizing your time and everything else. That was one of the things that I liked the most was your time map. And that in itself is an organization skill that I don't even think well-seasoned entrepreneurs necessarily have that master. Like, it's a constant needing to tweak that because your season of life changes. Mine just changed because we're on spring break from last week. And the next week is going to go into something else because school's back, but we got to get reacclimated, and our goals and our business has changed with the podcast. So like that needs to be included in our time map of what we're working on.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's funny because I was at a networking meeting, and I'm in a great group. It's all women, but they are very in the abundance mindset. So we have more than just one organizer. And there was a couple there that day. And so when it got time for me to talk, I'm like, you know what? Everybody in this room with the question from the speaker, it all came back to time, because she was an expert actually in networking and growing your business. And I noticed that almost everyone's answer, I can't remember what the question was, but it was something about like, what are your biggest frustrations in networking? And it all came down to time, having the time to do it, getting out there. So it's super important really for time. A lot of it, organization comes back to how you can work with your time.
Can we have more than 24 hours in a day? That would be, you know what I mean? Like, that would be awesome, because as a business owner, as a parent, even if you're not a parent, if you're taking care of your aging parents, whatever the case may be, you want to be successful, but then it's like, okay, well, I have to do this today and this is going to have to wait, which can be overwhelming. So how would you advise people to actually find the time?
My 3 things I always say that I've discovered now, the basic 3 things for people in organizing, it's when you're doing the stuff, it's what are you going to keep, donate, and toss. And for me, it's much more beyond that. My 3 things are your space, energy, and consciousness around being organized and what decluttering means. And in consciousness, a lot of it also comes back to guilt about getting rid of things. Or feeling guilty, and especially mom guilt, right? That's a huge, when I was doing market research, I'm like, mom guilt is such a big thing, imposter syndrome. So I always have people fill out the time map, as Dana was alluding to. And I actually got it through another organizer years ago when I first started. Julie Morgenstern wrote books called, her big one that changed me, actually, my time, was Time Management from the Inside Out. And she just had like a simple time map, and I created my own. And I've worked with clients, and like I have a friend who is also a client that's a nutritionist. I was so proud. It changed her business because she has a software program that she works with. People are having questions and stuff when they're in a program with her, and her thing pops up and it says, I have Tuesdays and Thursdays is when I'm in here. So leave your questions and I'll get back to them, unless they really have an emergency. So it's really the time. Looking at it is how much time you want to spend in your business, how much time you want to spend with your kids. And then in the map, I have people kind of put out, what's your current time look like? Fill out, what are you doing? When are you doing laundry? When are you doing all the things? And then I have them highlight with colors in the different categories. So friends, family, me time, now your own self-care time, and work. The first time I did it in a small group, I had one woman say, oh my gosh, all I do is work. It's her whole thing, purple. We picked purple for work. So I have people do that. And then I have a categories, what do you really want in your time? What are the things that aren't in your current schedule? Do you want more yoga? Do you need more time with your family or not? And then friends, and to me, community is huge. We were just talking yesterday in a group about values and connection. So getting the things you really want in your calendar, but knowing what they are first before they're in your calendar helps. So I have people do, what do you want every day? What are your daily things that you need to fill and keep your energy up when you need it? And what are the things weekly? And then I have them do like bi-monthly. So, if you need friend days, friend weekends, out with the girls, or date nights, things like that. So I have them start with that, and then we filter in, okay, where can those things fit in? And really, time blocking is a huge thing. Just picking the days that work for you. I actually did a workshop with another woman that started helping people with productivity. And it's interesting because she and I are different. Like for me, it's like, if I'm going to get up and shower and do that, just put makeup on for the day, then I'm going to do all my networking at the same in that day. Whereas some people might only have the energy to do 1 or 2 big meetings and getting to know people. So really kind of filling that in where it works for you. And that's where the energy comes in is, are you a morning person? Do you want to get up and do, I've actually, one of the things I needed more in my schedule was I need to be out in nature more. I need to be moving more. So I've let people into my calendar where they can pick a walking 1-to-1. So I can network and walk, and we get to.
I love that.
We can just stop right there.
Yeah, well, it kind of came about because this group I'm in, the Wellness Committee was doing a challenge to walk more in March. So we were like, get your steps in. We called it March Movement Month. And I was like, well, if I need any moving more, then that's one thing, and then we always say how multitasking is not a real thing. It's not productive to multitask. And I even say, well, I can talk on the phone and do dishes. That's about the only 2 things that are maybe productive to multitask. But then sometimes if I'm talking on the phone, I find myself walking around the house, roaming around. I can't actually get things done.
I get more steps in when I am on the phone than any other time.
Yeah. So out walking and talking, I think just walking is better than trying to get actual tasks done. So that kind of came about. I was like, well, I'm going to, for the month of March, and then I just continued. I'll throw in days where I might actually need to get out and walk, and I can walk and meet with people at the same time. So the energy thing is huge. Where are you a morning person? Do you have more energy in the evenings? I know for me, like I'm pretty tired by nighttime.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was doing a poll. I have an online group I just started for my Chaos to Calm. I have a membership called Chaos to Calm. And I was like, okay, when do people really want to meet? Because I want to do a monthly webinar just to help get information out there, what people are struggling with their organizing. I was like, I'm going to do what I call a lounge and learn instead of a lunch and learn. You can be in your pajamas still if you want, but we'll get online for once a month and help with people what they need. So the energy is definitely huge. And not just with time, but also with clutter. Like I always tell clients, like when you walk into a room, how do you feel? Like you can feel that feeling. My basement storage area got out of hand last year, and I was like, oh, I can't even go in there. I'm just throwing stuff in. It's ski season and all this stuff. We're not home every weekend. And then finally I got in there and dug stuff out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can just come in here all the time and feel so much better. So that's a huge part of organizing and clutter is the energy that you feel with it.
I would have to agree with that because I recently just cleaned off my desk and there was like a stack of just papers. So when the kids come home with papers, like open my office and throw them on my desk, like eventually put them away. And then I noticed as I'm working the last couple of weeks, I'm like, there's a big stack of whatever on my desk. And it wasn't like really bothering me, but I knew that like it needed to be done, but I didn't want to get it done because I was focusing my energy somewhere else and kept putting it off. And then it just became too much. And then I had to clean it. So it's like you're putting things aside because you don't want to do it. You don't have the energy to do it, or you're just like, well, I'll get to it later. Well, if you get to it later, then that stack of whatever is going to be higher and higher every day. I'm afraid to do my time map because I feel like I'm doing a lot, but I probably could be more productive in my time. So I'm curious of how mine would look like to help me figure out a better schedule.
Yeah, I'll have to send you mine. Well, it's interesting to say paper because paper is also one of my favorite things. I was with a group called Productive Environment Group and learned their system. And yeah, as long as you know what to do with it and where to have it, I always say, once you have a system in place, then it's just about recovery time instead of letting it go and go. But yeah, and that's interesting too, right? With the energy, what are your lower energy times a day? Maybe you keep the lighter tasks for those times, whereas you want to have the bigger blocks of time when you're really focused and you're high on energy to be in the creative space. And it's really about keeping your creative time and really sticking with the blocks too. I feel like when I have people create their time, I'm like, you have to have that set in stone. And especially instead of letting the time that you have for you to get things done, people tend to let other things creep into that. And the other super important thing is white space. You've got to have white space in your calendar to have that ease of flow, because days, obviously things happen, right? So we got to have a little space instead of, and I know I've done it where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get all the stuff done today. And I have everything on my calendar by the minute. That's, to me, that energy is, it's not a good feeling when you look at your calendar and you're crammed.
I feel like that's me decluttering my calendar is when I go in and make that white space, or I call it blank space, where I have nothing there. It's blank.
Yes.
And something that was recommended with calendars and structuring it, and this is where I noticed I was awful, is if I do have to travel somewhere, I can increase it. So like if I have a meeting on my calendar that I have to drive to, but it's not until 12, I really need to have the meeting on my calendar start at 11:30, or fill in something like leave for a meeting.
Yeah.
For the however long it's going to take me to get there. So I know when I need to leave and I'm not rushing to actually get there. And then I'm frazzled when I get to the meeting and I'm not in the right mind space to properly network or whatever it is.
Yes, that's huge. And I'm telling you, this is where the time maps and insight, when I read that book, that changed my life. Because I was always the one, like, I was pretty good. I'm like, I would always be running to the doctor's office. I'm leaving in 5 minutes. Because I would try to cram in as much stuff as I could get done before leaving. And that was a huge one where I learned, okay, what's the true, because one of the things is having people kind of track your time. Well, how long does it actually take you to do things? So that, like you said, is a perfect example. You need to have the travel time in there. Do you have to get up the elevator to get to where you're going? That stuff done. And that's huge. Yeah, the mindset of getting there feeling frazzled. I know when we get to some of our meetings, everybody just sits down, takes a deep breath to center being there if you were in traffic. But yeah, that's a huge one.
Hey there, listeners. Ever feel like you're struggling to connect with customers or lead your team effectively? That's where soft skills come in.
Entrepreneur Encounter isn't just another podcast. We're a community dedicated to helping early stage entrepreneurs like you master the soft skills that make or break a business.
Technical skills are important, but without communication, collaboration, and confidence, your business might never get off the ground to the next level.
In our membership, Dana and I share actionable insights and tips to help you nurture the soft skills you need to thrive.
Give you access to bonus content, workshops, and a network of like-minded entrepreneurs who are all on the same journey.
We'll teach you how to boost your confidence,
Become a leader who inspires and motivates your team,
navigate conflict like a pro,
to resolve disagreements without drama and build stronger relationships,
communicate clearly and concisely, get your message across, build trust, and close the deal.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, join the circle by clicking the link in the show notes. What are other common challenges that you've come across when entrepreneurs are trying to manage their time more effectively in that regard?
I think the overwhelm, like you say, it's huge what Sarah said, where is there more time in the day? I think one of the biggest things really around it is mindset. And one of the interesting things that I've come across recently, I was in a group and some people were reading the book 10X. Have you ever heard of the book 10X? And they talk about the difference between, it's like back to the Greek, it's kairos and chronos time. And it's essentially, if you think about the times where you're, just say you're out like on a walk, or the things where you kind of get lost in time and it feels like it's been hours and maybe it's only been a few minutes because you're just kind of in that quiet space. Whereas you might be frazzled right around and you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been doing this task for an hour and it's only been 2 minutes. It's really about the mindset. So one of the things I've learned too that I work with people is it's your relationship with time. So when I do workshops on time management, I actually lead people through a meditation, have them close their eyes and see what comes to them of how they view time. Like if time was a person, what do they look like to you? Is it some banker in a suit? Or for me, it kind of came as a wide open field, like a place to run and experience and experiment. So really your relationship with time and how you see it, and not always bringing in that, oh, I never have enough time to do it. It's like, there is enough time. We just need to figure out how to maximize it for you. And then delegating, I think, is huge. Being able to delegate the stuff you really don't want to do in the long run.
Say that again. I say that all the time. Delegate the things you don't want to do. When I have potential clients on a coffee chat and they're kind of on the fence, so they're like, I don't know what I could have you do. I'm like, write down everything you do every single day. And then like you color code or highlight the things you enjoy doing. And then anything that's not highlighted, you can say, move over to my desk and I'll do it for you type thing. That's one of my first exercises. And then if you're not comfortable moving all of those things, just take one or two of them and that'll free up your time. And then we can build the trust that, okay, I can do these. You can give me a couple more and a couple of more things. And then we grow over time that way.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting, that color coding, right? Because that's what I have people doing the map. And they're like, oh, wait, this is where my time is going. It's that kind of realization of where is your time currently? And then where do you want it to be? That's the huge part. And what do you want to bring into your life? And that's going to make your energy higher too, right? If you're doing more of the stuff that lights you up, then you have even more energy to keep doing more of that and serving your clients and helping people instead of being frazzled.
I think that would also help in moments where it's hard or the hectic season. So like I work with a lot of wedding planners and some of them have a downtime. There's engagement season where you're more prepping. And then there's wedding season where like you don't even have time to eat a snack most of the time. And so when you're that busy, it's even more of a stress relief to know that you have more time than you realize because you have delegated things. I worked with a wedding planner. She was based in New England. She was not a morning person. So her major tasks did not get done in the morning. We did not talk to her in the morning. We didn't do anything before like 11 a.m. We would be doing other things for her, like checking her inbox and essentially helping her mentally get prepared for the day. We would sort it and put more important tasks when she was ready by 11 in a to respond folder, essentially. So when she got into her inbox to start her day, she went to that folder first and then circled around or filtered out to other things. And that helped her have a successful day.
Well, it makes sense too. I would imagine if you're in the wedding world, you have later nights part of the year, and then busy season. And
yes.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Yeah, because email's another big one that came around a lot for me with clients during COVID when everybody was home. Like, I need help with my email management.
Oh man, that's too funny. I find it to be helpful as well. So depending on your client and depending on the task that you're doing, if you're trying to figure out the best time to do your client work, I've figured out a system where like this client A has this many tasks, client B has one task. So what can I do first? The one that has the one task so I can get it out of the way and not keep putting it on the back burner. So I believe that when you are trying to figure out, like, do you have time to do this today? Well, you can write out a list. Like we were saying, the list that is what you like versus what you don't like is delegating, but that can go hand in hand with your client work too, trying to time block, time management, see what clients' work is more important and then move on to the next one too. That can cause less headache trying to get your work done in a day.
I think one of the big things too is having some sort of routine. I mean, routine is for everyone really helps a lot. And so morning and evening routine, especially for entrepreneurs, is huge. Like I know my friend tried to get me for years to meditate and now I can't. I don't function well during the day. If I miss just like 10, 15 minute, I have to follow something with music, but it's huge to have small little parts of the routine. And then really too, at the end of the day, kind of assessing where you're at end of the day and what's going to come up for tomorrow. So you kind of know and you're set up for the next day. Having that evening routine, winding down. I think that's a huge part of having stuff like that in your calendar. So you see it. And then once it kind of becomes more intuitive and then just flowing with your routine. That's a giant one for me.
I think an integral part too, based on what we've been talking about so far, is also when you recognize that your calendar may be too full, is allowing yourself to reach out and say either A, I need to reschedule, or B, to update your schedulers so that you don't consistently have like back-to-back meetings. So what in real world experience, Sarah and I, when we decided to have on more guests, it was my fault. It really was. I was so overzealous. I was like, we can record like 2 or 3 podcasts in a day. No, we cannot. We were both overwhelmed. It was mentally exhausting by the time I had to go get my kids. Like I was working later on those days just because I needed to take such a long break from doing all of that. So now we record once a day, maybe twice if there's space in between. But we had like 15 minutes in between each episode that we were recording. And I was like, what was I thinking? So this was not a smart move on my part.
Yeah.
So now when someone books a call, that scheduler gets updated and you cannot book. That day is yours. So today, Heidi, is your day. And no one else is going to talk to you and Sarah. They had to pick another day. And it makes us so much better.
Like they say, it's good to batch. In the podcast industry, they say pick one day and record 3 to 4 episodes a day. This is just an example. And then you'll have the content for the rest of the month. That's a great idea and all, but there's some people like Dan and I that don't have the capacity to be able to do that. That is fine. Or when people say batch your blog posts, that's a lot of writing. That's a lot of like mental space, energy, all that stuff. So as we're talking about, you got to find your routine, find what works best for you, because we hear all this noise, like get all your content for the month ready right now and you'll have it all done. Yeah, you can do that. But do you really want to spend 3-4 hours recording and talking and all that stuff, and then you're checked out for the rest of the day? You know what I mean? So you have to find what is the balance, what's best for you, your routine and your time. Because then if you don't find that balance and find that routine, then you're going to get overwhelmed, burn out, get stressed. Like all the negative feelings are going to keep coming up. And then you're going to want to say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You want to.
And you said exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, is this came up in the workshop I did. For me, I don't think people realize how much energy it takes when you are mentally tuned into something. Like I say, I try to batch my networking because I'm out there. But when I get back, I'm like, whew, I need a little bit of downtime. I need a nap to gain my energy first. And if you don't have the mental space for that, then you got to space it out. And I think that's fine. And that's a routine too, right? Like you guys have to pick certain days. This is when you can record and people come to you. And that's a big one too. I know some people, I think it varies by, I don't want to kind of say like generation. I don't know. I notice people are getting more into business that are maybe a little older. They're really afraid to give their schedule out. Because I was just talking to someone is kind of starting her own business. She used to teach and now she's doing some other stuff. She's like, oh, I can't imagine. I'm so worried about putting my calendar out there. And people, I said, no, but the beauty is if you have something like I use Calendly, there's so many different ones out there that you pick what your blocks are and they can only choose from those. Actually, it's a time saver really in the long run instead of going back and forth like, well, I have this day, do you have that day? And
oh my God,
here's my link, pick a day that works. And then you can have categories. Like I said, I had Mondays or Fridays when I would say I can do a walking one-to-one, whereas my regular networking days, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and you can choose Zoom, I put some different coffee shops or lunch places and they can choose. I try to find some that are not too far from me, but that are between me and different parts of town. I'm in Denver, so we've got people north of me, west of me, south, and just picking those, it really helps save time.
I'm going to steal that idea. I love this walking one-to-one thing. Currently, like my personal quarterly goal is to get my steps in.
Mm-hmm.
And that will 100% allow me to habit stack and I can network and build connections with other entrepreneurs, but we can both get our steps in.
Exactly.
That is going to be like my thing that I take away from this. And this has been a great conversation.
I think I need to caveat that and say, I know multitasking isn't, but there is one way to multitask. That is okay.
Oh my gosh. Because I'm the type of person, like when I'm brushing my teeth, I'll be walking in place. Like I am so active in trying to get my steps in right now. It's ridiculous.
I love it. That's great.
Well, for our listeners who would love to work one-on-one, whether they're walking or virtually, how can they find you and connect with you?
So my website actually just finished. I'm excited. It's Anchors Away, AWAY, organizers with an S.com. And then they can find me on Facebook. I'm just out there. My maiden name was Hinterhauser because there's a lot of Mills out there. So I'm Heidi Hinterhauser Mills. But I would love people to join my group I created, Chaos to Calm. So you can see on my website, it's the membership. I created that with moms in mind that are super busy, that might not have giant chunks of time to work with somebody 4 to 8 hours, get a big set of something done. So that membership is to just take small chunks, more of the physical clutter, but I also cover time in there and some of the paper and digital is coming up. So Chaos to Calm is the Facebook group I created. And I don't put a lot of stuff on Instagram, but I'm on Instagram. Usually if I post Facebook, I do Instagram as well.
I love that. And we'll definitely make sure all of those things are in the show notes for everyone listening.
Awesome.
I think we all need more calm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this was wonderful. Thank you for being a guest.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. That's great.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.